The war in the Middle East has escalated to levels unseen in a long time. After weeks of Israeli attacks on Iranian proxy groups, including its ruthless onslaught on Hezbollah, Iran finally hit back with a barrage of over 200 ballistic missiles that rained down over the length and breadth of Israel, including Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Missiles have also reportedly fallen on the West Bank in Palestine and Amman in Jordan, triggering nearly all the countries in the region to close their airspace. Remember, the distance between Iran and Israel comprises the entirety of Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. There are videos doing the rounds of missiles landing on Israeli targets, indicating that Iran managed to overwhelm Israeli air defenses, including its Iron Dome system. Iran's trigger was the killing of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. You see, in the last few weeks, Iran was brought to the breaking point. Israel carried out a coordinated attack, blowing up thousands of pagers owned by Hezbollah members in Lebanon. The attack killed dozens of reserved fighters of the Lebanese militant group and maimed hundreds, terrorizing the terror group. Israel then went on to blow up satellite phones and other communication devices the next day at the funerals of the victims. Ruthless all the way. But this was not over yet. Iran chose not to directly respond to the attack, but Israel had a bold plan in store.
Thousands of Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists from Gaza burst into Israel in pickup trucks, on motorcycles.
Right when Netanyahu was giving his speech at the UN General Assembly, Israeli Defense Forces carried out airstrikes in Beirut, eliminating the chief of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, along with the rest of the top military command. In his speech, other than justifying the attack on Hamas in Gaza, the Israeli Prime Minister said that Israel will not accept a terror army perched on Israel's northern border, ready to carry out another 7th of October-style massacre. This was in reference to Hezbollah. In fact, Netanyahu is said to have approved the strike before he commenced his speech. Right when Iran responded, Israel was actually in the middle of cross-border raids in southern Lebanon and planning an all-out ground invasion against Hezbollah. Its stated motive was to ensure security of its people and to ensure the return of exiled civilians from parts of northern Israel, owing to the tensions with Hezbollah across the north border. But the larger agenda appears to be to lure Iran into a direct confrontation. One of the reasons for this is that Israel intends to overtly strike Iranian nuclear facilities and effectively end Tehran's nuclear weapons program. It also has its eyes set on Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, and the Iranian regime, which has funded and raised a cohort of armed proxy groups across the Middle East like Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen, all of which are programmed solely to target Israeli interests. It can target Iran's oil facilities, hurting its economic prospects as well. All in all, Israel wants to cripple Iran, perhaps to remove the threat once and for all. What else can explain Israel's conduct in the last few months? Israel has crossed every red line laid out by Iran. It has emasculated Iran on the world stage. Note, the intent to humiliate has not been lost on the world. First, the endless bombing of Gaza and the obliteration of Hamas. Then the assassination of Hamas's leader Ismail Haniyeh in a blast while he was in Tehran as a guest of the Iranian government. Fast forward to the killing of Fuad Shukr, a military leader of Hezbollah, and ultimately the wiping out of Nasrallah himself. Hezbollah, as it stands today, has been decapitated. It is said that thanks to an intelligence mole inside Iran, Israel knew about the exact whereabouts of Nasrallah for months. Apparently, Nasrallah was slated to move, so Israel planned the operation to kill him before he disappears again. And this is important because this group is supposed to be the most prized jewel in Iran's kitty. In fact, it is known to be the most powerful non-state actor in the world, stronger than the Lebanese army and an extension of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It has a vast reserve of rockets and firepower and thousands of fighters. It has emerged as a formidable political force in Lebanon, and Nasrallah in particular was seen as the most powerful man in Lebanon. And he has a long history when it comes to fighting Israel and serving Iran. Hassan Nasrallah had been the leader of Hezbollah, a Shia Muslim militant group, since 1992. Under his leadership, Hezbollah transformed from a local resistance movement into a formidable regional force supported especially by Shia Muslims across the region. Supported by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, Hezbollah became the crown jewel in Iran's regional strategy, a powerful proxy in its shadow war against Israel. Nasrallah was the face of Hezbollah's military and political strength in Lebanon, but also its growing influence in Syria, Yemen, and Iraq. His leadership enabled Hezbollah to stockpile tens of thousands of rockets and missiles, which were primarily aimed at Israel. Given the formidability of the group, Nasrallah's death was perhaps not on the world's bingo card. People were in denial when Israel claimed it had eliminated Nasrallah. From Lebanese civilians to global experts, everyone took this information with a grain of salt until the confirmation came from Hezbollah's end. This was followed by protests across the region, but also celebration, since this was, after all, a very divisive personality. Journalists were seen tearing up on air at the news of his death. But why was it so hard to believe that Israel could eliminate Nasrallah? You see, over the years, Nasrallah built an image akin to a genius and invincible cult leader. He was hardly ever seen in public. For years, he had only been appearing in recorded messages on screen. The general perception was that he was untraceable and untouchable. But that turned out to be a facade when Israel took him out. This was a humiliating blow. That's when everyone's attention panned towards Iran, which had been so far trying to avoid taking the bait, which would trigger an escalation and a direct confrontation with Israel. This was perhaps the last straw, but it remains to be seen whether Iran will wholeheartedly fight Israel or whether this response was just another face-saving ruse before it seeks de-escalation again. However, the dynamics of the region have significantly changed undeniably. You see, Israel's assassination of Nasrallah is monumental. Hezbollah is arguably Iran's most critical proxy group in the region, as I've said, and it serves not just to exert influence in Lebanon, but also as a key deterrent against Israel should it attempt to target Iran and particularly its nuclear facilities. Hezbollah's rockets and Nasrallah's leadership have long posed an existential threat to northern Israel. For Iran, Hezbollah's survival, therefore, is crucial. It provides Tehran with a forward base to harass Israel without risking an all-out war. So the elimination of its leadership has left a gaping hole in Iran's regional power structure. It has also demoralized the rest of the proxy groups. The weaker Hezbollah gets, the more exposed Iran is. And with the US involved straight from the Israeli war room now, things have just gotten more complicated.